Fifth race entries are now lining up behind the Home Hardware Building Center starting gate. It's post time. Fifth race, top of the stretch, has the Yin Yang. It's Up to You. Privilege. Speaking of Shadow, Crime Boss, Little Tags, Better On Than Off, and Western Phil. They're off and pacing the Yin Yang at the rail. Away alertly grabs that early lead. Away second is Privilege, grabbing a seat in the pocket outside, and from post 8 continuing on third now. That's Western Phil. Along the inside, It's Up to You gets away, spotted fourth. Looking for a seat in 5 is Speaking of Shadow. Then back on the inside, 6th for Crime Boss. The 7th away was Little Tags, and the early trailer as they move through the backstretch for the first time is Better On Than Off. They arrive at the opening quarter up front. It is the Yin Yang to dictate the terms. Leads by a length. Sitting tight up in the pocket is Privilege second. Along the inside, It's Up to You is the third one. Outside in 4. And looking for a spot and finding one at the rail is Western Phil. Back on the inside, Speaking of Shadow, is 5th. Moving out uncovered 6th is Little Tags. Off the turn, 29 seconds was the quarter. They race through the stretch now as they approach the half. The Yin Yang continues to chart the path. Leads the way past the midway point with Privilege, getting a golden journey in the pocket second. Speaking of Shadow, the free-legged mare moves up quickly on the outside to engage the leader, the Yin Yang, as they race into the lower turn. Speaking of Shadow, looking to clear as they approach the 5/8 and continue on to the Redland Farms backstretch. Final time, the half in 1:01. And Speaking of Shadow marches on to the lead. The Yin Yang is now second, gapped out by some 3 lengths. Third is Privilege. It's Up to You along the inside, is pacing along in 4. Fifth inside is Western Phil. They arrive at 3/4, and Speaking of Shadow is drawn clear by 2.5, 3. The Yin Yang a tiring second. Off the rail third goes Privilege. Followed in 4th by It's Up to You, 1:29 and 3, 3/4 past the 7/8. And Speaking of Shadow is a clear 4-length leader as they make the final turn. Privilege on the outside is trying to reel her in second. On down the stretch they come. Speaking of Shadow, Privilege outside second. It's Up to You, but it is Speaking of Shadow winning the 5th. Second is Privilege, and third, It's Up to You. The mile at 1:59 and 3/5. There's a dead heat for 4th here in the 5th race between 1, the Yin Yang, and 7, Better On Than Off. back in the Woodmere Farms winner's enclosure is, speaking of Shadow, 5th race winner. She's a 4-year-old daughter of Art Speak. Owned by Josh McDonald, Little Pond PEI, trained and driven by Darren Crow. For Darren, 3 consecutive wins, natural driving hat trick. Speaking of Shadow, in 1:59 3/5.